We got to talk about the Washington Wizards. They just wrapped up November, going all 14, in which they are calling no-win November, which is extremely insane to me. And overall, they're 2-16 under Brian Keefe in his first year coaching this team. And I'll start there. The 2 wins come against, ironically, the same team, the Atlanta Hawks. And I remember those 2 wins because though I predicted that the Wizards would be the worst team in the NBA, those games early on was exactly what I felt a team like them needed, right? Where you allow the fan base to be able to have something to be hopeful for. You show yourself some development, some growth, and some flashes from the young guys that excites you and understand exactly what you have and what you need to continue to do to rebuild your team the right way finally. And I was extremely happy with some of those games. Even the first game where they played the Celtics really, really, really good. And it was like, okay, the Wizards might actually, they're not going to be that good, but you're going to have to go in and earn your wins. And again, it was extremely early, but I was trying to find something to be hopeful for a team that I projected to be the worst team in the NBA. And there is even a tweet out there, I believe, of me saying like, man, with Bileal, with Alex Sarr's upside defensively, Keyshawn George and Bub, and then you mix in potentially getting a Cooper Flag, they might have something there. And if you squint and you look at the end of the tunnel long enough, you might see some light there where it's like, I can actually see something here with the defensive side, upside, the versatility and switching, the length. There is like, oh man, some intrigue. But then I look at the last 8 games. I look at the month of November, and I get off of that high. Reality starts to kick in, and the Wizards go back to showing you why. To me, there's a big discrepancy of organizations and how they're ran in the NBA. It's the reason why you have a team like OKC who are in the position they're in. Again, right? Like, this is a team that had Durant, Russell, Jeff Green, Harden, Ibaka, Steven Adams. Like, they did that. They did this before, and now they have J-Dub, Chet, Shea, Lou Dort, Aaron Wiggins, and Cason Wallace. And I'm not even talking about the free agent acquisitions of Isaiah Hardenstein and the trading for Caruso and still having an abundance of picks. But it's like it's so many steps to this because progression and team building and all of that isn't linear. It isn't NBA 2K where you draft the guy or you trade all of your players and you get a bunch of picks and you just draft high picks and they're just going to start off at 75. Then their sophomore year, it'll be 79. Then they're at 84. Then they're at 88. It ain't like that in the reality of the world. In reality, you have to first be able to identify the talent, number 1. Number 2, you then have to develop the talent. And then number 3, after you even develop the talent, you have to know where to put the talent in order for them to be valuable and effective for you and your organization. And those are all 3 things that the Washington Wizards struggle with. We can go over the short history. We start with a guy like Troy Brown Jr. Is that I'm identifying talent? I thought Troy Brown was all right at Oregon. He's all right, one and done prospect. Whatever he was, they didn't develop him. What about Rui? And I don't even know if I'm going to order, but Rui, the 9th overall pick out of Gonzaga. I think they did a good job identifying talent. I think they somewhat developed him. But there was a point where it kind of got stagnant. And it was like, what do you do with him? And you were forced to trade him. Hell, even Denny. I believe Denny is the same way where you drafted him and you identified that talent. You even developed it. But as soon as he became his best version with you after that said development, you had no idea what to do with him or how to use him. And so you were forced to trade him in order to get more picks to rebuild the rebuild and reset the reset. Corey Kispert, who was the 15th pick or 13th pick or something like that, is another guy where I think the writing is on the wall for him, where he's just going to be better off on a playoff contending team, adding value for them because they'll know how to really utilize his effectiveness and how to really get the most value out of that, in my opinion. And so then when I take all of those things into perspective, I look at what you have now and I have to ask myself, is this the reality of what's to come with some of these guys? Are y'all going to develop Keyshawn George just enough and then say, hey, we don't know what the hell to do with this because we don't know how to be a overall developing, winning organization like some of these other teams. I'm not saying it's impossible. We've seen the Wizards have good seasons and be a playoff team under the John Wall, Bradley Beal era. But on a consistent basis, the Wizards have had us scratching our head for a while. I mean, just go back to the Bradley Beal situation. We all felt like they held on to Bradley Beal years too long. And then the year they decided to go opposite way is like the year where Victor Wembanyama's in the draft. You just missed an entire opportunity to get the guy that is the best prospect we may have ever seen. Just from an upside of like the year after, that's when you start like even the now Kyle Kuzma situation. To bring it back to the current team, I look at a guy like Bileal, and we're going to talk about Bileal specifically because he is the one that made me feel like, oh shit, like this team could be different a little bit. I'm liking what I'm seeing. He's becoming one of my favorite young players. I got his stats in front of me from the first 9 games of the year. Keep up with me. Just from an overall field goal standpoint, Bileal Coulibaly, throughout the first 9 games of the season, he shot 96 shots. We're going to round it up to 100. So he had 100 overall shot attempts through the first 9 games of the year. That is a really good number for a guy that's at this part of his development on a team like the Washington Wizards. Being the player that he is, right? His upside is his length, his size, being able to be a wing stopper. And then whatever else he can give you on the offense is how he is going to become whoever he's going to become, right? You have a 3-and-D wing is like the base model. And then you have like this all defensive 3-and-D wing. And then you have this guy who can maybe give you 15 plus points a game. And now you're talking about a 2-way borderline all-star, early Paul George, Kawhi, and then he'll turn into whoever he's going to turn into. That's the best case scenario is the Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard thing where they start off as defenders who grow their offensive game year by year by year, getting a little bit more responsibility on the offensive end, and then they just take off like a rocket, and before you know it, you have a star in your hands, right? So I felt like this was nice, and I was intrigued with it, and when we go into the 100 shots he was taking, you look at it, and it's encouraging. 33% of those shots were catch and shoot three-point shots, and he was shooting 35% from 3 on those attempts, and you walked away like, man, okay, like it ain't out of this world craziness, but 35% for Bileal, it allows him to be respectable. He's making them, and 44% of those threes, and from those threes, when he shot them from the corner, it was at a 44% rate. So he was money from the corners. He was money from the corners. You combine that with his shots less than 10 feet, which was 50% of his shots. So now 80-something% of his shots, he is catching, shooting, and he's moving out the basketball, right? This is great for the development of the type of mold of player he's going to be, which is base level 3-and-D. This shot profile is 3-and-D, and he's doing damn good at it. He was shooting, 69% at the rim. Just overall being extremely effective, and some of the best basketball we've seen in his early career came in this stretch. When you look at dribbles, zero dribble shot attempts, 52%. More than half of his shots came without a single dribble, which again, at this part of his development, you love. And then the last thing I'll bring up, he shot 50% of his shots as open or wide open attempts. This is the first 9 games of the year. And he was giving us 15, 16, 17 points per game. Really putting up incredible numbers during this stretch. And matter of fact, let's get to the nitty-gritty. Let's actually identify exactly what it was. The first 9 games of the season, Bileal Coulibaly was giving us 16 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists with a steal and a block, shooting 57% from the field, 37% from 3, 80% from the free throw line on 3.5 attempts, and only 2.4 turnovers. I ain't gonna say only. For him to have 3 assists, 2 turnovers, it ain't bad, but it's like, I hate turnovers, so I'm gonna be the turnover police. Now, let's compare that to the last 8 games of the season. And the reason the last 8 is important is because throughout the first 9, 6 of those games, Kyle Kuzma didn't play in. which is going to be an end point that I'm going to make. The last 8 games for Bileal, he is shooting 8.5 times a game at 35% from the field. 30 from 57 to 35 is a drastic drop off. 3 attempts from 3 at 21%. And then he goes from 3.5 free throws to 2.8 at 68%. Yeah, I mean, just the entire shooting across the board depleted. And he's giving you 8.5 points on 8.5 shot attempts, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and less than a block now. Totally different player. And if this version was to be the version we would continue to get, this would be a disappointing year for the Wizards, because at all fails, you want to see this guy do something that gives you some hope. He is the guy that in that early part of the season, you said, oh, man, hell yeah. We got Bileal Coulibaly. I was shopping for this dude's jersey. The only reason I didn't get it is because I was waiting for the Wizards to drop the district jerseys that came in blue. I wanted that jersey. What is that, the city jersey or whatever? I wanted that jersey of Bileal, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I was shopping for this dude's jersey, and I'm still a cop of jersey. I don't think this is who he is. I think he is going through growing pains as a young player, except sometimes there's a wide variance. A player might have a 2-month stretch to start the season where he looks really phenomenal, and then his cold stretch will come at the very end of the year where he just looks god-awful. Or you have it reverse. Some players start off the season and they're completely just not there. It's just like, man, he's having a very tough start to the season. And then you'll hear the last 2 months of the season, he was playing the all-star level. How many times have you heard that about a young player? The last month of the season, the last 2 months, the last month and a half, he was averaging 28 points and blah, blah, blah. So stretches and flashes happen, and cold streaks, they happen as well. It's just that Bileal's is coming right after each other. Great nine-game start to the season. The next 8 is legitimately the worst-case scenario for him as a prospect and as a young developing talent. And a lot of times we don't see it instantly go from boom to boom. And that's where it's like, I have to bring up Kyle Kuzma. Now, I do want to say this in a way where I'm not trying to blame Kyle Kuzma. I'm not trying to, crucify Kyle Kuzma. But when you go and you look at the Washington Wizards and you look at their roster and you look at the guys that we look at as their core, those young guys, which is basically Bileal and those 3 youngins of Alex Sarr, Bub Carrington, and Keyshawn George. A lot of the flashes or a lot of the good moments you've seen in this season, they came in the 6 games that Kyle Kuzma wasn't there. That's just the truth. I'm looking at Keyshawn George right now. Kyle Kuzma got hurt initially on October 30th. He didn't come back to around November 12th. During these 6 games, Keyshawn George career high is in here. 20 points. Second career high, 17 points. Third career high, 50. This is all back to back to back. Just a really good, encouraging stretch for him. And he even started 2 out of these 3 games. 7 of 19, 6 of 12, 5 of 9, 6 of 17 from 3. Really good stuff where it's just like, hey, he's a young player. He's playing through it. He's getting some opportunity. He has the ability on a random night to be able to shoot 17 shots. 17 shots. That is hard to do when you insert a Kyle Kuzma into the lineup. And his mind track this year is to score the basketball and shoot the laces off of the ball. You look at a guy like Bub Carrington. Same scenario. Some of his best performances early on came in the stretch where there was no Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma is not in the lineup, and boom, look, 12 shots in this game. 7 of 12, 4 of 11, 2 of 9, 5 of 8, 16 points, 10 here, 10 there. He had a game we almost had a triple-double, 10, 10, 8, and 4 steals against the Memphis Grizzlies. Even though they lost by 24, it's still the reps, the opportunity, and the chances. And then you look at Kyle Kuzma, who, again, I'm not trying to, crucify or pretend he's not a good basketball player. I think Kyle Kuzma in a really good spot would be a really effective basketball player at this point in his career. But I feel like he doesn't fit the timeline with them because he's moving into age 30, where a guy like Jordan Poole is 25, and he's years above these new guys that they just brought in. So Kyle Kuzma at 30 on this roster is kind of like a vet's vet. And I just don't think the vet should be shooting 28 shots. Like, look at some of these games. Kyle Kuzma has a 28 shot attempt game. He has a game where he took 20 shots, 16, 18, 19, another 18, another 16. These are a lot of fucking shot attempts. So when you look at Bileal Coulibaly to start the year, and I say, hey, in the first 9 games, he took basically 100 shots. Then you look, oh, Kyle Kuzma didn't play in 6 of those first 9 games. Well, the past 8 games where Kyle Kuzma played a majority of them, besides the one game he got hurt in, which was like 8 minutes into the game, Bileal's only shot 70 shots. So in the same time frame, the same amount of games essentially, Bileal has shot 30 less shots. His entire shot profile is different. Bileal Coulibaly, throughout the first 9 games, 33% of his shots came on catch and shoot. 50% of his shots came from less than 10 feet. That's 80% of his shots on catch and shoot and basically at the rim. Basically. Pull-ups, non-existent. 15% of his shots came on pull-ups. He literally took 15 pull-ups. Now, pull-ups is the second highest frequent shot he's taken. He's taking more pull-ups than catch and shoot shots. And I don't know if that's him feeling he needs to be a little bit more aggressive. He needs to create for himself because nobody's creating for him. I don't know if that's him being played different, but it's not the same, and it's not leading to the same success he was seeing early on in the season. He's shooting 11% on catch and shoot threes over the last 8 games. This right now is your guy until you figure out who you're getting in the next year's draft, or if Alex Starr has just some crazy last 3 months or 4 months of the season. Bileal is your best valuable prospect that excites fans around the league and probably is the most exciting guy that your fan base is looking at when they think of hope for this franchise. And if Kyle Kuzma being on the floor disrupts all of these guys, y'all need to find a way to get rid of Kyle Kuzma. And we're going to see, because Kyle Kuzma just recently got hurt, which nobody is hoping for, but he did just get hurt again. He's day-to-day. He has with the ribs, and we'll see how long that takes him. But while he is gone and while he's absent, if these guys start to have some better performances versus what we just seen over the last 8 games, that's going to say a lot to me on how the Wizards pivot around that, because I think there is too much to lose at this point. And it brings me back to my point again. When you look at certain teams around the league, there are certain franchises that just historically they're not going to have too much lack of success. You know, I think like a Mavericks type franchise where it ain't like the Mavericks have championships on championships like the Celtics or the Lakers, but they are always in the mix. They're always giving themselves the best chance. They're always kind of getting the most value that they can. They're knowing how to pivot and maneuver and not sit in a place of, you know, worst team in the league for too long. Some of these other organizations I'm looking at, I'm like, man, y'all kind of getting comfortable down there. Detroit, y'all kind of getting comfortable down there, man. Washington, you know, like I know it ain't been that many years post Brad Beal, but I'm just looking back and I'm saying, nothing y'all are doing makes me think this is going to end soon. Nothing of what y'all doing. And then I look at teams like the Thunder, where it's like we can have Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and then we can kind of lose that. We don't win the championship. We don't reach out for. And then somehow, in between that, years go by, we found a way to get back to that. And to me, a lot of those things don't be by accident. I'm looking at the Chicago Bulls. Hell, the Bulls ain't as bad as the Wizards record-wise, but what are the Bulls doing, and how long are they going to continue to be in this thing where it's like we ain't the worst team in the league, but we don't know if we're making the playoffs again this year? Like what? And then you look at the league, and there's just such a wide discrepancy. There's such a wide discrepancy. We talk about the league, we talk about the NBA, and we talk about how much talent it is compared to the previous years. Man, if we have as much talent as we say we are, teams should not be losing like this. You went a whole month without losing. A whole month without losing. And I want to say that y'all did this like last year too, or the year before. We got teams losing 28 games in a row. The Wizards might be on that path. I hope not. But like, we shouldn't have that much disparity where like y'all can't get a lucky win. A lucky win? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't like the state of the Wizards right now. And as a person that's not a part of the fan base, but just a basketball fan, again, though it was early, though it was a small sample size, I saw things in the early part of the season that intrigued me and made me say, And now I see over the last 8 games, all of those things have kind of gone out of the window. Because again, it goes back to there's steps to it, and it's not a linear process where it's just like, hey, we're going to have a top 5 pick this year, so we good. No, you're going to have to be able to develop him and put him in a position. And I'll say this too, and I'm going to stand on this. As much as I like some of these guys in this draft, we'll just talk about Cooper Flagg because that's what everybody wants, right? As much as I like Cooper Flagg and as many positives I see of him as a basketball player, I think you're going to set him up for failure if you're a Washington Wizards type team by thinking he's going to come and just be the free-for-all savior. No. That's not really how it's working no more. We just saw that with Vic. Where last year they got Vic. But because a lot of the other stuff wasn't properly in place, it ain't really, Cade Cunningham is a really good talent. But if you don't properly put the things in place, then this is the result you're getting. LaMelo, I know he can't stay healthy, but even when he is healthy or having a healthier season like now, well, he did just get hurt. So him and Trey Mann out for 2 weeks. But prior to that, it's like you look at the Hornets and when he is on the court, it's not the greatest shit there. It's very hard to just go get a prospect who can just change the shit around. LeBron James ain't here every 5 years. We're not getting LeBron James. And even then, LeBron ain't make the playoffs his first year as a rookie. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you're not just getting these guys and they're just going to save. No, you got to develop some of the things you already have. You can't be missing constant picks over and over and over and over. You're going to have some player development to put a supporting cast or some structure there for your rookie while he develops. Because nobody in the NBA right now is winning by themselves. That NBA is gone. You're going to have a guy and a running mate or a guy and some running mates. Or you just be one of those lucky-ass teams that can get a Shea, Chet, and J-Dub trio or something like that. But right now, the Wizards have a long way to go before they get there. And that's just how I feel. Y'all let me know y'all thoughts in the comments. I know some of y'all are Wizards fans. Let this be a point where y'all can kind of just get shit off y'all chest. Nobody's here to really kick y'all down further while y'all already down. It's just to point out some things on how I feel and what I'm taking from this and how I'm now shifted from where I was once intrigued. Appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all next time. We're going to be heavy uploading during December. I'm out. Peace.